MSNBC legal correspondent Lisa Rubin. Lisa, you have been doggedly going through this filing. I have hit some of the highlights. Give us more of what you've read thus far.
You know, Joy, one of the things that strikes me in reading this is the way in which Jack Smith and his team so rapidly but also effectively subverted and turned on their heads some of the arguments that former President Trump and his lawyers were making. One of the things that echoes throughout the briefs that former President Trump has submitted is a president is special. He should be treated specially and differently. And Jack Smith sort of doesn't disagree with that. He just takes a different tack at it. Yes, presidents are special. We endow them with all sorts of constitutional powers, including the power to take care that his powers are faithfully executed and to respect and venerate the Constitution more than anyone else. And what you are alleged to have done here, Mr. Former President, is of, and this is the quote, unparalleled gravity that necessitates trying this case as quickly as possible, not the delay that you are begging for. Another thing that I think he says that is really interesting, it's really what he doesn't say. Former President Trump's brief to the Supreme Court was suffuse with references to his candidacy. It talked about how he was the Republican frontrunner and indeed the leading candidate to be president of the United States. He talked about the fact that he had an interest in a stay because one of the groups that would be irreparably harmed from a trial would be his voters, his supporters, who would be deprived of their First Amendment rights to associate with him and hear his political messages. And again, Jack Smith and his team turn that on their head. They say the public's interest in a speedy trial here is greater than any interest that Trump could have in delaying it, particularly given that what he is accused of doing here is subverting the democratic will of tens of millions of voters. In other words, you claim to stand for the interests of a certain segment of voters, but the accusations at the heart of this case are about your willingness to disenfranchise the tens of millions of people who never voted for you in the first instance.